guys, it's me, Crystal, and today I have a new free macrame wall hanging pattern for you. You'll find the supply list down below, but I'm starting here with 10 pieces of 5mm rope that are 46 inches long, and I'm just attaching them to my 12-inch dowel with lark's head knots. And you're just going to space them out evenly, leaving about a ½ inch of space or so in between, and just continue attaching them all. Like I said, all the supplies for this are down in the description. Now we're going to flip it around to the back. And then you're going to take this first one on the left and loosen it a bit, and then you're going to take one of your pieces of colorful single strand macrame cord. These are about 108 inches long, and you're going to thread it through there, and whichever color you prefer. And then you're just going to tighten it up, and you have it evenly put in there so there's the same amount on both sides. And we're going to take those and tie some square knots. So if you don't know how to tie a square knot, I will link to my basic macrame knots tutorial up in the corner and also down in the description. But you're just going to tie 7 regular square knots and a sinnet, which just means stacked on top of each other. So there's one. And then you're just going to continue that going down until you have 7 square knots. Okay, now we're going to tie some spiral knots. So it's going to be the same as a square knot at first. You just do the first half of your square knot. But instead of switching sides, you're just going to continue tying with that same left cord to start and then finishing it just like you are doing like half of a square knot. And you're going to tie 12 of these spiral half knots all together here. Once you get a few of your spiral knots done, you'll notice that your cords kind of start twisting around, and I'll show you how to just twist them around and continue. So about here, I decided I needed to twist them around, and then you just continue the same way, and it makes it a little bit easier to tie your knots that way. Alright, now we're going to do 7 more regular square knots under the spiral knots. So just go back to your switching sides, back and forth, and you're going to tie 7 square knots stacked on top of each other. And you're going to repeat this with each of the cords you have hanging from your dowel, and if you alternate the colors like I was doing, it looks really neat. Here I am, I'm just doing the top 7 square knots for each one first, and then after that I'm going to go and do all the spiral knots and then do the bottom sections of square knots. I just like to batch things like that. It helps me feel like I'm getting things done efficiently. But here I'm doing some of the spiral parts, and you see I've got 2 of each color going across, and it makes kind of a cool ombre effect. And I'll link all the cords that I used down below if you're interested. Hopefully they'll have the same colors in stock, but you could do this with any colors. Once you get all those knots tied, we're gonna flip our work around to the back. So just take it off your rack, flip it around, and we're gonna tuck the ends of the colorful cord up so we can trim them. So I have a large eye needle here, and this part's a little tough to do. You're gonna need a little elbow grease, but you could also use a crochet hook here if you wanted. Thread the end of your cord onto your needle, and if you have a metal one, it's a little better. This plastic one I was afraid was gonna break. But then you're just gonna thread it up under the bottom square knot and pull it through. And then I did go ahead and thread it up through the next square knot as well, just to be safe and make sure it's really, you know, threaded up under there. Most likely it'll be fine even just under the first square knot, but it never hurts to be a little extra secure. And once you get that one done, you're going to do the same thing with the other cord that is hanging there. So here we go. And then just repeat that with all of your little square knot sennets. Just get all those ends tucked in. Once you get them all tucked in, all you have to do is go and cut the excess cord off, just right up next to where they're sticking out, and that'll make you a nice, neat finish for our back of our little wall hanging here. But we're not done yet. We're going to add some more pretty fringe and do a few double half hitch knots here. So flip it around back to the front side. And then you're going to grab one more piece of cord that's about 20 inches long, and I'm using the same cord that I used for the center cords on my dowel. And you're going to do double half hitch knots, and you're going to leave about an inch of space here. I'm not doing that, but I will be in a second. So you just are using that cord as your filler cord and then wrapping the cords hanging down around it and making double half hitch knots with each one. Here we go. Now I have the space. So you're going to leave about that much space, and I'll show you why in a minute. But just this first one is usually really tricky because you're just trying to get it straight. So just get that first one good. And then the second one is still a little tricky, but once you get a few of these on there, it gets pretty easy to do. So just wrap it around, and that's the first half of your double half hitch, and then wrap it over and bring it through again. And that's the second half. And if you struggle with the double half hitch knot, I have a tutorial that I'll link to that specifically shows that knot, because it is one that a lot of new macrame people struggle with. But it's actually pretty easy once you get the hang of it. It just kind of takes you a minute to get your brain to wrap around it. No pun intended. So just continue tying your double half hitch knots and try to keep it nice and straight as best as you can. But this will be hidden under some fringe, so it doesn't have to be perfect. And just do that all the way across. Now that we got our double half hitch row in, we're going to add some fringe. So I have 20 pieces of cord here that are about 25 to 30 inches long, depending on how long you want your fringe to be. And we're going to tie a raya knot here. So you're going to bring the ends back, and the middle will be right here on the front. And you're going to bring the ends back through in between those two cords here, right in that hole in the middle. So you're just going to stick the ends through. So I did one at a time, and this is kind of messy looking here at first because I accidentally dropped it, but wrap it back around. And then you bring the other end through as well. This will make more sense in a second. And then you just get your ends and you make sure they're even, and then you pull them to tighten it up, and then they're coming out over that loop. So it looks like this, kind of like a pretzel. And it's the loops down here, and the ends are coming out above the loop. And then you just tighten it, and there you go. And we're going to do 2 of those for each one. So we're going to do the same thing right above the first one. So just come out right above the first raya knot. Pull that end through, bring this end around behind, and pull it through. And then again, line up the ends and tighten it, and make sure it's tightened above the first one, not over it. And there you go, you got 2 stacked raya knots, and this will give you lots of nice fringe here. And you're just going to repeat that all the way across. Just tie 2 stacked raya knots in each section under each colored sennet. Okay, here's our fringe. And now we are going to deal with the filler cord here, and we got to tuck that in. So we're going to flip everything back around And now we're just gonna take this filler cord and tuck it under a knot. So I'm again threading it onto my large eye needle. This time I got a metal one, which was a little bit better. And you're just gonna go under, I went under the second knot on the back, and you just gotta beat it under one of them. And then do the same thing on the other side. And once you get this tucked under, all you gotta do is trim off the excess cord. And then we're ready to deal with all of this lovely fringe. So here, you just trim off this side and this side, and that should be plenty sturdy enough to hold it in place. Back on the front side, I'm just gonna untwist the fringe. So you can either leave it the way it is or untwist it. And I like it untwisted, especially with this rope. I did not brush it out, so that's, if you want to brush it out, you can. I did not choose to do that. I find it to be kind of high maintenance when you brush it. And I like the wavy texture of this rope whenever it's untwisted. And here we go. And now we're going to cut it. And I'm using this trick with a guideline to make my fringe really straight. And I also have a tutorial showing how to do that, and I will link that down below as well. But I just have the piece of rope tied to either side of my macrame rack, and then that gives me a nice straight line to use when cutting my fringe. And now your wall hanging is complete. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please leave a like, comment, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of my future videos. Thanks for watching!